Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another episode review from Season 5 of the Loud House. Today's episode is titled, Dream a Lily Dream. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. The episode begins with a very sleep-deprived family trying to figure out why Lily has been having nightmares. When it turns out Lisa's experiments are the cause, the child genius and some of her siblings enter Lily's dream to take out two of the monsters. However, there's still one more Lily didn't mention earlier, and that would be Flip. When she sees her sister about to get wrecked by this giant-sized convenience store owner, Lily defeats Flip and the nightmares are officially over. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. I'll admit, I never thought I'd see the day where Lisa's experiments would finally become a problem for someone in her family outside the usual messes that come with them. It's amazing how no one else got nightmares from all the things she's done, but sadly not everyone in the Loud House is strong enough to keep such pictures out of their heads. Just ask Lisa in the episode The Mad Scientist. But before I talk about her, let's first talk about Lily. Given how many experiments she's witnessed her big sister perform over the course of her short life, some of those traumatizing images she didn't think too much on as an infant have now come back to haunt her in her sleep as a toddler. I do have my nitpicks on those previous encounters, but I'll get back to those in a little bit. Her biggest moment of the episode was when she managed to overcome her own nightmare when she saw Lisa was in trouble. She didn't understand the stakes of what would happen to her sister if Flip destroyed her, but she still came through in a very heroic way, just like her big sister, and now we come to Lisa. She admits to being the enabler of Lily's nightmares, and you can tell she was fully aware of how much she screwed up when she didn't think what she did in the past would have consequences until much later. So she decides to go down the path of Inception by creating a machine to place herself and her siblings in Lily's dream to fight the monsters. She claims she'll no longer perform monster experiments, but given the nature of the series, we'll see just how long that lasts. Still, these two had their little moment after the final battle, and the next morning when Lily says she had a good dream about Lisa. Oh, it was so cute. But moving on to something more serious, I really enjoy the action sequences. It had a similar tone to that of One Flew Over the Loud House, only this time the stakes are you'll get taken out in the real world if you get taken out in the dream world, and they'll be trapped in Lily's dream if she wakes up before they do. That's why the rest of the family had to stay awake and stop people like Mr. Grouse from mowing his lawn at 3 in the morning and a bunch of old people from causing late night mischief. Scooch really is a bad influence, isn't she? Anyway, getting back to Lisa for a moment, she took the risk of staying trapped in Lily's dream by having her siblings return to the real world, saying she wasn't about to put another one of her family members in danger. It was very commendable of her to sacrifice herself if that's what it took to stop the nightmares. Of course, the one who ultimately saved her was Lily when she picked up the calamari her dad gave Lisa before entering the dream and turned it into a sword, because you know, dream logic. Then she went full-on Dragon Ball Z future Trunks by slicing Flip in half. Now that was epic. But no matter how epic the fight scenes were, this episode is not without its flaws, so let's get to those critiques. One of my biggest nitpicks would be how one, maybe two of Lily's nightmares are caused by things she never saw, at least according to the audience or those who pay attention to detail. I'm not going to argue Lily and the giant tentacle, because when I looked back on the episode No Guts, No Glory, she was caught up in the monster's grasp, so that's objectively the most believable nightmare she could have. When it comes to Trashy, you begin to wonder if she truly saw this thing when you remember her parents removed her from the entire situation and kept her in their bedroom. Did she catch a brief glimpse of him as a small and gentle monster, or when he was sitting by the curb at the end of the same episode? In either case, we never saw her looking at Trashy when he grew into a larger and more deadly monster. I'm willing to half believe she saw him when he wasn't acting threatening, and her dreams manifested this piece of collective trash into the scary monster the rest of her siblings saw, but it still comes off as a little flaky. However, I will not defend the nightmare that is Flip Filippini, and this negative cannot be ignored. I could complain about how Lily neither doodled him nor acted him out when she was trying to explain what she was seeing in her dreams, but maybe this guy was too scary for her to bring up in the conversation, no matter how weak of an explanation that sounds. Given how he's presented in the real world, I wouldn't doubt it if little kids looked at him and were scared out of their minds. Regardless, Lisa brings up how she never introduced Lily to Flip when she experimented on him back in the episode Blinded by Science. And looking through the episode itself, Lily and Flip are never seen together on screen. So the question is, how could Lily have dreamt about someone's freakish body if she never saw it? Did she just combine the image of Flip she was used to seeing in past episodes? There's quite a few of them actually. And then added the abnormality Lisa was talking about the following night when she went to sleep? I honestly don't know, but it seemed like the use of Flip as nightmare fuel was phoned in just to create more drama and to fill up time. Perhaps the worst part of it is, once again, seeing how inconsistent Flip's physical body features have been throughout the 5th season. He has 2 butts in the science episode, and they are seen again in this episode, and yet he only has 1 in Diamonds Are for Never. So does this mean Diamonds never happened? Although I can't stand Flip as a character, the way the writers have changed his physical appearance throughout the season just doesn't do him any justice. If they want to perform a soft reboot on his character for season 5 by adding all kinds of disfigurements, they either need to stick with these changes or simply not change anything about him if the end result is going to be adding and then removing said disfigurements for plot convenience. It also doesn't help knowing the animators couldn't keep his 2 butts consistent in the same episode when he's briefly drawn with only 1, or possibly none at all. And that really says a lot. When you realize the reinvention of a minor character like Mr. Bullhoffner is more consistent than the reinvention of an established recurring character like Flip, it speaks volumes on how the writers really feel about him. Love him or hate him, it's still not right. Overall, this episode was quite good when it came to having an action-oriented plot with a hint of serious consequences if the plan failed. Lily and her siblings were heroic in their own ways, the fight sequences were great, and seeing those Lisa and Lily bonding moments were a nice touch. As for my nitpicks, I'm willing to partially defend the use of Trashy and how he came to be a nightmare, but in good faith, I can neither defend nor properly explain why Flip suddenly became a nightmare when there was very little build to it. As for his inconsistent physical features, it just creates more problems in confirming if he truly is a freak of nature for the 5th season going forward, or his disfigurements are just brought up and drawn upon him for storyline convenience. I don't know, we may never know, but maybe at this point it probably doesn't matter anymore. With that said, I give Dream a Lily Dream an 8.8 out of 10. Now before I go, let's hear what someone else from the fandom has to say about this episode. Here to give his thoughts on Dream a Lily Dream, please welcome one of my favorite Loud House reviewers, the Loud House Critic. Take it away.
Hey out there everybody, it's your favorite critic of the Loud House, and this is my first time I actually collaborate with somebody on a different channel. What I'm about to tell you is about half the opinions about this episode, Dream a Lily Dream, before I can actually give my real opinion on the actual episode itself on my channel. So what did I think of Dream a Lily Dream? Well, when I first watched it, I loved it. It was really adorable. I'm sorry, I can't help to think about so much anything bad to say about this episode. There was so much good stuff that actually went on in this episode. Lily having nightmares, Lisa, Lynn, Lola, Lincoln, and Lenny actually helped fending off her bad dreams. And some of these creatures are actually from season 1. I just adored this episode. But I wasn't expecting Flip to be the big boss himself, which I wouldn't be too surprised if he actually was the main antagonist for a video game of the Loud House. And the ending was really adorable, especially what Lily said to Lisa. This episode got me so amazed. When they enter the nightmare sequence, there's so much frightening atmosphere that you can actually spot in the song Tricked from the Halloween episode of the Loud House Tricked. I felt like I was watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, sprinkled in with a bit of silliness. It reminded me so much of the Heffalump and Woozle from Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, the Pink Elephant from Dumbo. Hell, there was even an episode of the Powerpuff Girls where they actually had nightmares that they had to fend off for themselves, and it turned out the villain, him, was actually behind it the whole entire time. But when you're watching something like this, you're kind of watching a bit of a Treehouse of Horror from a Simpsons episode, which ironically speaking, there was a Halloween episode that actually had a parody of Nightmare on Elm Street, where Willie was actually the serial killer Freddy Krueger. A bit rushed and a bit predictable, but I can just overlook that easily, because there's barely anything bad I can actually say about this. Season 5 is starting to kick up some of the very good episodes that we deserve to see a lot more than what we should have seen in season 1. So, on the scale of 1 to 10, I give this a 9.5 out of 10. This has the green light. If you haven't seen it, go see it now. And this is about as good as I can actually give it. Thanks for having me around, Steam Team. And I'll see you all next time on another Loud House Critic episode review, Thursdays at 1 a.m. And be sure to catch me on any social media page. I gotta go and get some episodes ready for October.
Well said, Mr. Critic. Looks like we both very much enjoyed this episode. You know, that's the best thing about these fans. Lots of different takes on episodes, and I always appreciate what they have to say. Thanks again for your thoughts, and here's to another successful video. Now let's get to that outro. Well, folks, that concludes my review of Dream a Lily Dream. Now, if you'll excuse me, this video took a lot out of me, so I'm going to head off to bed. I heard the shrubs are a good resting place, at least according to Rita and Lana in this episode. So, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.